the Reds have such power to convene. You know, people care about the Reds, especially when they feel like, look what the Reds are doing. They're using, you know, their profile positively, progressively, responsibly to go out and do things that transcend sports.
Pleased to be joined by the Executive Director of the Reds Community Fund, Mr. Charlie Frank is here with us. Charlie, thanks for coming on the show. How much do you love your job?
Oh my goodness, Jack. I could regale you all day, but trust me when I say I feel incredibly fortunate having grown up in this community and coming from a Reds family and caring so much about the team, so much about the community, and sort of working my way into a position where I can be the front end of where that intersection takes place with baseball and community. It really is. It's a dream job.
I think that you've got a really interesting position, too, because, the interviews that I've done with nonprofit folks and whatever experience that I have with people that are involved in that space, executive director is oftentimes a position that involves making sure that grants are written and filled out ahead of deadlines, and there's maybe a lot of glad handing, but I think you're really more in the driver's seat from a creative perspective. Is that the right angle to have on that?
Yeah, it is. And, there's so many unique layers about the Reds Community Fund and being in a sports nonprofit. And we've been in this space for a long time, and I serve on some other boards. So I know how fortunate we are to have 81 home games, to have a, professional sports team to draft off of. And as you know, and, as the viewers know, this isn't just being connected to a sports team. It's being connected to the Reds in greater Cincinnati. That is a really, really unique opportunity and a responsibility. But yeah, it's been fun. A quarter century we've been around, and I've been around for most of it. Still have my hands in a lot of the creative. We opened our youth academy 12 summers ago. So, we have 6 full-time staff that are out there operating that. So in the weeds every day with, a 30-plus acre site and a 34,000 square foot indoor footprint. But yeah, there's a lot to do. It's obviously grown dramatically in my time here, but it's fun to be able to wear a lot of the different hats and still build the relationships that really keep it going.
Yeah, it's really great stuff, and you get to meet people, you get to see sort of the fruits of your labor with videos like that, where it's the kids that are out there playing with stuff. And you've referred to yourself as a community ambassador, which I think is sort of that maybe more so than executive director. Yeah. Yeah,
it really is, because it's about relationship building, and I think that continuity is such a key. Having been in this role now for 23 seasons, been through a lot of turnover in the local baseball and softball community, working with leaders in Dayton and Louisville and Middletown, and that continuity, people being able to find you, trust you, know that you're still a part of the Reds organization. It's a very powerful thing. So and I feel fortunate too that I've been part of the Reds leadership team here for a number of years. So, I feel like I have a handle on a lot of the day-to-day business beyond just what's happening in the community lane. But I think more than anything, I'm counting on to be out in the community. Tonight we have a dinner at our Youth Academy celebrating our RBI program, reviving baseball and softball in inner cities. We'll have over 500 guests. Yeah. Parking will be a nightmare. We're hoping the roof doesn't flood again in the rain today. But, so seeing the coaches, seeing the families and the kids that we serve, with donors and sponsors that'll be at the event as well.
That's such enthusiastic support. It's not people showing up because, well, I need to do this. I feel like it's less out of obligation and more about passion for what you guys are accomplishing and passion for the team and passion for the idea of kids playing sports.
Yeah, it all comes together. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's a tough thing to describe, but I think you just did a good job. I mean, youth sports is a big part of it. Baseball and softball are a huge part of it. Community is a huge part of it. There are a lot of different areas that you can tap in and sort of find your energy. A big part of our mission is the fact that fewer kids are playing baseball and softball than before. And you can find statistics that support any narrative. But, the reality is if you look at a lot of the ball fields, they're pretty quiet after May. And when I grew up playing knot-hole baseball here, we were playing, if we were doing well, into August. So the season has shrunk. The number of kids playing the game locally has has changed dramatically. The way the game is played has changed. I mean, so much of it now is travel ball and select ball, and that's tough. It's tough. You know, when I was coaching my son and daughter, we took a lot of pride in still playing rec ball. They want to ride their bikes to the ball field, you know. So the game has changed. There's a big business piece of this, you know, beyond the labor situation and the TV rights and TV revenue. Finding that next generation of young people that really care about this game is so imperative. When I started, it was sort of a nice to have. Now, from a business perspective, it's an absolute need to have, and our ownership and leadership of the Reds really understand that.
Well, and I think you get so much support from the organization like you're talking about. And how big of a deal is it when you're trying to build like this RBI program about baseball in the inner city, and kids just being able to maybe meet a Reds player, meet a professional baseball player, and have that be the thing that maybe kicks them off on caring about a thing that they never cared about before?
Yeah, no question. I mean, in a town like ours, I mean, access has got to be a big deal. It's easier here than it is in other markets. I've worked in other markets, and you know, from my experience, the access here is greater. And access is such a part of the fan experience because the game has become so corporate. Not just our game, sports, the business, all of it has become so corporate and expensive and exclusive in some ways. Baseball's the outlier. You know, baseball, you still can afford to get to the ballpark. You know, 3-2-1 Tuesdays are an affordable way for our young fan base to come and experience Reds baseball at the ballpark. But getting access, if you're a kid, Hunter Green coming out to the academy as he was a few weeks ago with Jose Trevino and Will Benson and Matt McClain. I mean, we have such a connection with the Reds clubhouse. We have every player, and Terry Francona that are involved this year. Chase Burns with his new deal going to be even more involved. We're incredibly fortunate. That's not just good luck. That's leadership. That's strategy. It comes from the top. And when we opened our youth academy 12 years ago, and other teams from Major League Baseball came in to check it out, I think they left town just as impressed with the culture that gets players out there, gets resources out there, so that everything is flowing from the top down. And the academy doesn't feel like a one-off. It feels like a part of the Reds culture. We just had our ticketing department out there for a big lunch yesterday. It really does feel almost like Goodyear, Arizona, but closer. Part of the campus, part of the DNA.
I'm not as aware of what maybe other baseball teams do. I sort of assume that every major league franchise or team has some kind of charitable community or aspect to it. Do you interact with what these other teams are doing? Can you toot your own horn a little bit as far as what the Reds Community Fund is doing versus maybe what other teams are doing? Yeah,
you know what, Jack, I'll say the one thing about us that's unique, beyond having the first indoor northern climate youth academy, is that we are more baseball and softball centric than I think any others. Our model has been to be more inch deep, instead of the inch deep, mile wide, we've been more of the inch wide, mile deep.
Okay.
So we're really engaged in trying to get kids to our game. It is so important that we reach them young. It is so important that we partner with public schools to get baseball instruction and introduction into the PE classes. We have been so intentional about that, especially over the last 10 years. If kids don't know how to play our game, they're not going to keep up with it. They're not going to become fans of it. For us, we grow up in this community. I mean, baseball was spoken in my home from a very young age. It's like learning a language, and if your parents appreciate it, or your family, your friends, if it's on in the background at your home, if you get, like you said earlier, a chance to go down and connect and feel what the atmosphere is like, you're going to stick around with it. So that's such a big part of what we do with the community fund. Having a youth academy is a big piece of it, but I tell people all the time, it's just a dot on the map. So we also have to be really strategic and very intentional to make our budget go as far as we can, so that we can expand into public schools, we can expand into other Reds markets, and we're lucky with Louisville being our AAA affiliate and Dayton being one of our single A affiliates. Our Reds baseball camps is running right now. We have camps in West Virginia.
Yeah, you guys are doing stuff during the season too. This isn't just like off-season stuff.
We really don't have an off season. We have the the baseball season, and then we have the fall and winter where we are programming 6 days and nights a week at our youth academy and still working on Fridays, but trying to give everyone a night off just for high school sports. But so I think we're more in the weeds of our game than any other team, and there's some teams that do a great job. There are other fabulous academies out there. I think we're a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of really trying to, first of all, track our data. Our board president, who's a retired P&G guy, his name's Tim Butler, and he's done an amazing job developing what we call our Youth Baseball Collaborative. We're trying to get our arms around every organization that plays youth baseball or softball in our community, just to have a dashboard of how many kids are playing.
And that's you guys reaching out to them as opposed to a bunch of different groups calling up the Reds saying, hey, can you help us? Hey, can you help us? That's you guys reaching out to them.
We get those too.
Okay.
And we have grant cycles that are built for people to reach out to us for support. That's why we exist. But in terms of the leadership piece of it, that is us reaching out.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get Major League Baseball to embrace this, because if I were sitting in the commissioner's chair, I would want to have this dashboard data not only in every major league market, I'd want it in every minor league market and every community that plays RBI baseball.
Yeah.
We need to be doing more to understand who's playing, where are they playing, how are they playing, and how can Major League Baseball and how can the teams in the community support them.
Real quick, before we go to break, I do want to get into a little bit about, because you guys have this variety of programming and so many different things that you're doing where you're, the Youth Academy is huge. Setting up fields for kids to play in various communities is huge. You've got stuff like the Red Legs Run, which is a big fundraiser for it. You guys have such a creative way of raising money for the organization that's more than just, hey, show up and write us a check. It's participatory stuff like the Red Legs Run. You've got the 50-50 raffle, which was instituted somewhat recently. There's a picture from the Ripley Field ribbon cutting, which South Ripley, Indiana. You guys you guys are out there doing this to help out. This isn't just inner city, it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's Reds country, and there's our 50-50 raffle with Mike's Car Wash, which has become, not only for the Reds, but for most teams in baseball and North American sports, it's become just an extraordinary, irreplaceable revenue stream.
It's huge. And I'm told that our own Paul Fritchner is a huge fan of the Reds 50-50
well,
raffle.
Paul Fritchner, thank you for your generous support. I can tell you with 50-50 raffle, and our staff does an amazing job with early bird prizes and a lot of creative marketing. You can play 50-50 as long as you're in the state of Ohio when you play, and 18 years of age or older. You can play at any time. I mean, we have our opening day jackpot that runs about 5 weeks before opening day, and that one grows to be about $250,000.
Yeah.
We have we do it now. We did it for years where we would have a jackpot for every home game, and I bumped into someone last week who was telling me, I won it once, but it was when you still did it every night, and it was a rainy April, and I said, you probably won about $720.
Which, by the way, that's still nothing to
still
sneeze
nice.
at.
Yeah, of course. He said, and I still got my tax form from you. And I'm like, yeah, you're welcome.
Sure.
But now we pull a winner after every home series.
Yeah.
So, if we have a 9-game homestand, we're pulling, 3-game series at the end of each of those 3-game series. So it gives us an opportunity to build some momentum. It makes that jackpot at the end of it a little more desirable.
Yeah,
and I
sure.
think like people that play any lottery know, as that number grows, everyone at the ball, if you get over 6 figures on a Sunday with a big crowd, we can't keep up,
That's for sure.
And opening day, I think we're still printing tickets from, because we got to print every ticket. And if you sell the Ellie Dela Cruz special and you're getting 44 tickets for $20, we have a lot of tickets to print at the end of the day.
You talk about printing tickets and raising money. We've got to pay a couple of bills. We got to take a break. We will be back with more Charlie Frank from the Reds Community Fund after this. So that's a promotional video that the Reds Community Fund did specifically when it comes to the telethon that you guys just had recently. I think that was a pretty successful thing. It was certain dollar amounts that got pledged, got certain like prize packs and all sorts of stuff maybe on field. There were a lot of different options for people.
Yeah, you know, Jack, I mean, for years, the telethon was strictly over the air. It was strictly a TV event. The last 2 years, you can see we've really taken great strides to build it out at home. The Reds have been phenomenal to us, as they always are. You know, and people may not know, the Reds have 2 501c3 public nonprofit partners with the Reds Hall of Fame and Museum and the Community Fund. And the inclusion, the support is, boy, it's hard to articulate how genuine, authentic, and meaningful it is to be able to go out and tell our stories like this. So, I mean, we had an expanded pregame on the air. So that telecast at night includes a 60-minute pregame, and all the baseball elements are the first 30. So if people are tuning in, you know, we're telling our stories about our kids, our coaches, our field renovations, our facilities, in that final half an hour, and we're priming the pump to get people interested. We do give the 2 packages. So this year we had this incredibly popular Reds-themed hockey hoodie that made even a 2-hour and 12-minute game get us to a sellout level. The game was so fast.
That was a quick game.
It was a 1-0 game, but you know, the items were so popular in that package with a Joe Morgan bobblehead that had the spring on the left elbow, so there's the chicken wing flap. You could, you know, because it's 50 years since Joe Morgan's second MVP award. And so all these prizes, so you could have the 2 different elements, but then the home game, as you mentioned, we had a lot of our award winners, our coaches, a lot of our teams and kids. They had a parade before the game and a lot of elements in game.
Charlie Frank is the executive director of the Reds Community Fund. You know, you were talking about telling the story, and telling stories is something that you've got some professional history with. You were a local guy, went to Walnut Hills High School, and at some point you get over to the Minnesota Timberwolves and worked in communications for them. I'm curious about, you know, what you learned in working in communications for the Timberwolves that's a part of what you bring to leadership here for the Reds Community Fund.
Well, you know, as a communications major, I focused on radio and TV. So I started my career in radio. I worked in Boston with the Celtics radio network for 2 years, and that led to an opportunity to join the Timberwolves when they were getting their radio network and their TV elements built. And I was young. But I came from 2 years with the Celtics in the late 80s, and the Celtics were still the Celtics. And that was still the Bird, McHale, Parrish, Celtics. So there was a phenomenal opportunity in Minnesota. The young group that kind of learned how to do it together, but some people in the industry that have gone to do amazing things. So there was tremendous vision and leadership and energy and speed. And you had to think on your feet. I mean, we were going through this for the first time. First season with the Timberwolves, we played at the Metrodome. We averaged about 35,000 fans, drew over 1 million. I still think it's the only wintertime sport that's ever had 1 million fans. It's just an amazing experience being there for over a decade. And then, took on community and some PR responsibilities. And when I left and came back to Cincinnati, it was a lot of that community touch point that resonated. I still love the radio TV. I still hang around more than I should, with the Reds radio crew, especially. We have a every Saturday radio segment on the Reds radio network.
I mean, what is Cowboy thinking that you're sweating him or something?
I don't think he's too concerned. He gets sick of me just sitting there and weighing in on the scoreboard stumper, though. No, I mean, storytelling, to your point, is so important, and the communication background that I had in school that I took into my first days in radio that I then used to take on more responsibility in the NBA with the Timberwolves. A very different hat that I'm wearing here with the Reds. But the ability to connect, the ability to storytell, the ability to convey your passion for the product. Yeah. To work in sports and entertainment, to be able to stay in it as long as I have, I mean, that's a blessing, man. That's it's not easy to do. I've had a couple very distinctive, chapters in my career, so I realize how fortunate I am. And clearly, it's the ability to talk and listen and relate and empathize
Well, and you're telling this story really to maybe two different sets of ears. You've got doing public stuff like this where you're being interviewed about the organization and talking up all the stuff you're doing, but in terms of the various partnerships that you guys have with so many corporate supporters and sponsors here in this city, that's you telling the story again to them too. You've got Kroger, you've got Procter & Gamble, you've got, I think, GE Aerospace, you've got the zoo. There's so many organizations that you guys work with that are so supportive. You know, that's one of the things that was a founding tenet of this show, was the idea that we talk about business, we talk about what companies in this city are doing, but also keeping up on the arts and keeping up on the nonprofit space and the way that companies in this city support those organizations. You see that firsthand.
Oh yeah, and we're coming up on one of our biggest examples of that here over the next 48 hours. We have a project that the Reds lead called the Community Makeover, and it began back in 2010 with P&G, and then we moved into, so it's a different community every year. It started with ball field renovation. 2011, we started in Winton Hills, where ironically we're back to here this week with an incredibly dynamic project where we are getting into the, you mentioned GE, they're bringing the STEM labs, the Cincinnati Zoo, what they put into this project in terms of design and horticulture and facilities.
That's cool.
It's staggering how much they care.
And so you guys are back at Winton Hills for the Community Makeover.
Back at Winton Hills, so we're working at Winton Hills Academy School. We're working at Winton Hills Recreation Center with CRC. We're working at the Winton Hills Community Church, at their new Community Council building. We're working down the street with the Metropolitan Housing Authority, refurbishing a basketball court and painting a mural on it with local artist Brent Billingsley.
Wow.
And we're working over at Brandon Phillips Field, just 3 blocks away, which was the home of this project in 2010. But it's P&G, the zoo, Cincinnati Children's, Kroger, GE. We've added the Housing Authority this year. It's also the Greater Cincinnati Foundation, United Way, OneSource, Tool Bank. I mean, and I'm leaving some out. And that's where I think the Reds have such power to convene. People care about the Reds, especially when they feel like, look what the Reds are doing. They're using, their profile positively, progressively, responsibly, to go out and do things that transcend sports. This started with ball field renovation. Now a ball field is a piece of it every year, sometimes a big piece, sometimes not as big. It's always about youth sports, but more importantly, our goal is to be able to positively impact every child, every family in this community. And from Bond Hill in 24 to Walnut Hills last year to Winton Hills this year, we're already, working hard to figure out what's the next project in 28.
Well, say what's next? That's
what's next?
Maybe the sign of a good leader right there. Charlie Frank is the executive director of the Reds Community Fund. They're doing a lot in the community. They've got stuff coming up this week with that makeover in Winton Hills, getting back to where it all started. Charlie, thank you very much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Jack. Great to see what you guys are doing here. Great to see it firsthand.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you.